You're back at Mexico City. The cars now lined up on the grid. Alan Prost back in 13th position, but Prost quicker in this morning's warm-up. Let's check out those morning warm-up times. McLaren looking in good shape. Berger fastest on 1 minute 19.823. Senna a fraction slower. Piquet looking good in race trim. He's third fastest. And Mansell fourth in the Ferrari. Fifth and sixth fastest, the two Williams. Boutsen just that little bit quicker than Riccardo Patrese. Then it's Sandro Nannini in 7th place, and then Prost 8th, almost a second slower than teammate Mansell. Jean Lacey 9th quickest, but he has just had a problem out on the circuit. Donnelly impressive with 10th position, and Suzuki next up, the team having worked hard to repair the car after teammate Bernard crashed yesterday. Well, much of the enormous growth of Grand Prix racing is attributed to one man, Bernie Ecclestone. He doesn't give too many interviews, but when he does talk, you know it's going to be very illuminating.
Bernie Ecclestone, Grand Prix racing continues to grow, improve. How do you see it going in the next 10 years, in the decade of the 90s?
Growing and improving.
Just bigger and bigger?
Yep, more television coverage, much more television coverage. And we're getting to a lot more people, spectators. The races are getting more and more crowds, bigger crowds. So I think there's still a lot of growth there. 16
races on the calendar at the moment. Would you like to see more?
I would, but the teams don't want to. No, we're going to see 16. We'll keep it at 16.
There is talk of Hungary perhaps dropping out next year. They've obviously got some problems there, sorting out their new regime and so on. Any other venues you'd like to go to? South Africa's one.
Well, firstly, there's no problem with Hungary. And we've got a lot of new venues in the pipeline which we're looking at.
The one sort of area where you seem to be missing out is Southeast Asia. I know the Singapore people have tried to get a race together and don't seem to have achieved even a racetrack so far. Is that an area you'd like to be? Obviously the Pacific Rim's a very important part of the world these days.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we went to Japan in the first place, because of that. I'm sure we get a race in Singapore.
Someone will have to drop out.
Yeah, that's how it looks.
Over the years, you've been involved with a number of great racing drivers, Jochen Rindt, going way back to Stuart Lewis Evans, and then more recently, of course, various Brabham drivers, our own commentator John Watson, who, as you know, is a bit of a rock ape in the paddock these days. You saw him handbrake turning in front of you. Any special favourites?
No, I suppose people like Carlos Pachin and Jochen and those sort of people I was a little bit closer with than others, and Nelson. You know, we spent 8 years with Nelson, or he spent 8 years with us. So you get some sort of I try not to get too close personally to drivers, because it's very difficult if they're driving for you to be close, and if anything happens to them, it's which is what happened to Jochen, as you say, and Stuart Lewis Evans. So.
You're trying to change sports car racing also, but just the other week at Spa, they had very few people. What's the problem with sports car racing?
I'm not sure there's room for two like Formula One type events. I mean, this is a big event, and I'm not quite sure there is room for that, and I'm not sure that the public really know what it's all about with sports car racing. And Formula One's been around a long time. If you can think of the amount of money that has been involved in publicising Formula One, not actually somebody's paid, but it's generated through the sponsors and and this sports car series has been going 2 years. So it's not going to just happen overnight. And it is a manufacturers' championship, which is a little bit different.
Did you feel the same about the World Touring Car Championship? A lot of people are sad that died, and now the German Championship, which we have on Eurosport, seems to draw big crowds and lots of manufacturers and all the paraphernalia of Formula One. Do you feel that there's ever a chance that you might resurrect that championship?
What we should have had was the Silhouette Formula, because that was the best of all worlds. And maybe that'll happen again, who knows. But no, we're working hard on these. I mean, really, we're in a transition period with the World Sports Prototype Championship. Now we're changing the name to just World Sports Car Championship next year. So it's a different emphasis. It's more a World Championship. It's part of the FIA World Championship. The 3 championships we have is Formula One rallies and will be sports cars.
How about rallies? I mean, that is a completely different world, and they are a bit of a law unto themselves, aren't they? And very difficult to control.
I think the whole concept of rallies is wrong. I'd like to see the whole concept changed to make it so it's more viable for television and for the spectators.
Spectators?
The purists would complain because they must be right, because hundreds of thousand people or something go to the RAC rally or whatever.
They walked 2 miles into a forest in the middle of the night.
It's quite incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Bernie, thanks very much. One last question I'd like to ask you. In a lot of major sports, golf and so on, they do announce how much the winner gets, and you don't. Is that a particular reason, or just too complicated?
Well, the amount of the prize money is just a small part of what they actually earn, and it's a tiny contribution towards a team's budget. Probably a team like McLaren is probably 3% of their budget, so it's not really worth talking about.
You think it's irrelevant?
Yeah, I don't think anybody cares. I mean, if I watch a golf match or watch football or whatever, I don't care what they win or what happens in football. What do they win in football?
Who knows?
Bernie not in fact here this weekend, obviously working on a future deal. The start less than 10 minutes away now, so let's take a break. Then we'll return with our live flag-to-flag coverage. Stay tuned! While you're back at Mexico City, we've got a little extra interview for you now. One of the most famous figures in Grand Prix racing, a backroom boy, is Professor Sidney Watkins. Let's talk to him now.
I suppose after I came out of the army in 1956, I started to take a medical interest in motor racing. And having been interested in motor cars all my life, because I grew up in a garage, it seemed to be a fairly sort of logical development that one of the cheap ways to get to motor racing was to be a medic on as a doctor on one of the ambulances at one of the corners. So that's the way it started at Silverstone and subsequently Brands Hatch. And then I graduated through the medical hierarchy of motor racing and eventually ran some of the races as a sort of chief medical officer in England before I went to America in 1962. When I got there, I got more involved with Watkins Glen, and in particular with the American Grand Prix in Watkins Glen and the Can-Am series and the other formulas of racing that was going on. I came back to London in 1970 and the RAC asked me to join the panel of the RAC, the medical panel, as the neurosurgical opinion on that. And so for the next few years I helped organise a team of specialists for the British Grand Prix when we were using the Stanley Passion Wagon as the headquarters. And so that was the situation until 1978 when Bernie Ecclestone asked me to join FOCA as their medical advisor and to go to all the Grand Prix.
I think you've sat at the end of the pit lane for every Grand Prix since, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've been fortunate. I haven't missed a race since the Swedish Grand Prix in June '78.
How were you able to fit all this in, Sid, with obviously a very busy life as a professor at an important hospital?
Well, of course, it helps to be sort of chief of the department so that one is able to do the organising. And we have, in fact, quite a large department of neurosurgery with 3 consultant neurosurgeons. So I organised, with their help and cooperation, the capability of being away for the Grand Prix weekends. It means I do 16 Grand Prix, a couple of weekends in Paris for the political meetings, and 17 weekends on call at the London Hospital. Doesn't leave many weekends for salmon fishing in Scotland, which is my, what should we say, principal folly in life.
What sort of equipment do you have with you in the car?
In the intervention cars, we have primary resuscitation kit. In other words, the ability to intubate the driver, put an endotracheal tube down if it was necessary, intravenous infusions to maintain the blood pressure, and the ability to ventilate the driver or keep his oxygen levels up. In other words, all the things you need to treat the primary accident, if necessary, in the car, if the driver is trapped, so that you can take your time about extricating him without adding to his injuries. And I suppose the only philosophy I'd like to express here is to say that I'm often, and doctors are often, accused of taking an awful long time to get the driver out of the car. Now, we don't mess about, although the press seem to think from time to time we're there just to mess about. We want to take the driver out in the best condition and in the best circumstances for him. And if that means taking 20 minutes or 40 minutes, then provided there's no risk of fire, we just work away gently, because now we can make sure that they're treated for shock, treated for pain, and maintained in the best condition while they are being taken out of the car.
At Imola, we saw you rush up to Martini and attend to him, and he was a rather long time in the car. Why was that?
Well, in his case, it was simple. He couldn't get his feet loose. So there wasn't any way he could be extricated until little work was done on the front of the car. And it was necessary, really, to take his boots off to get some space to work. His feet were absolutely trapped at the ankles. But having ascertained that his right leg was unhurt, I took his boot off and got his foot out of his shoe, and that then gave us the room to work on his left ankle, which was
but said you're a brain surgeon. Had he got his brain in his foot?
Well, the foot's a bit easier to manage than the brain.
Over the years, you've had a few amusing incidents. I think when you first started at Monza, there was a dog handler with a bit of a problem.
Yes, that's right. The remarkable injury, though, was this chap lost his finger. When he took the muzzle off his German Shepherd dog, who promptly removed the nearest piece of, what should we say, attractive meat to eat. And that really was the outstanding event there. We had a search to try to find it, but it was impossible.
The dog had swallowed it.
The dog had swallowed it.
Ouch, I think is the only thing to say after that. We've had more dog problems here today. Actually had a dog get in the way during morning warm-up. Now, let's go to a break. Well, here you are at Mexico City. We had a few problems getting pictures to you, but now the satellite is working, and you see all the cars lined up on the grid. John, I know you've been enjoying this race meeting so far very much, haven't you? Yes, indeed. It looks like being one of the best races of the season. In fact, there are three teams in a very strong place, and McLaren, who have been traditionally at the front, are really having to work to retain their position. Yes, I think John Lacey, you were having a look out of our commentary box, and problems with John Lacey as they go on the final warm-up lap now. John Lacey stopped out on the circuit, John. Do you know if he's got back? Yes, he did. He stopped in the furthest part of the circuit from the pits. So it was a long back for John. But he got back into the spare car, and he made it out of the pit lane. Before the pit lane closes, there's a 20-minute window. If you don't make it out in that window, you will not get a race. So he made it, and he's in the race. And I think we can expect to see a few fireworks from Jean Alesi. He's pretty quick out of the box, and that sprint down to this first corner is going to be exciting. It most certainly is. Tyres a critical factor here. Pirelli, we think, are going to see their runners make a stop. Goodyear, different tyre compounds being used by different drivers, and John Watson's got all the latest news on that. Well, let's start with the Goodyear runners. Most of the teams are starting on their C race compound. Williams, the Boutsen car, and Patrese on B, which is a harder and more durable compound. The reason is that their car tends to be slightly harder on the tyre, makes the tyre work harder. Therefore, they've gone for the more conservative route with the B compound. But of course, it isn't quite as competitive. But people, Goodyear are saying, well, we don't expect pit stops, but I'm quite sure that a number of drivers, particularly after the hard early laps, will use their tyres, maybe abuse their tyres. So we can expect, I think, to see a few Goodyear runners coming in, but the bulk of their cars are on the softer C compound. One odd setup is on the Lotus Lamborghinis of Derek Warwick and Martin Donnelly. They've gone for a B left rear, which is the harder of the compounds, and then the other three tyres are the softer C compound. So they're, if you like, compromised. But being the C compound, I think the C will be the one for the race. Yes, Ayrton Senna led this race from start to finish last year. Senna driving in race number 100 here, would love to win it. Bit of fun and games in the paddock a couple of hours ago with a big cake. In fact, his Mexican team coordinator, Joe Ramirez, got a bit of that cake in his face at the end of it all. But happy times in the paddock.
All right, well, before we go to the race, let's recap the starting grid.
Right, well, surprise, surprise, Ayrton Senna's not on pole position. Instead, it's his teammate Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. Riccardo Patrese's on second spot in the Williams Renault. Ayrton Senna, third spot. Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari, fourth spot. Thierry Boutsen, fifth in the Williams. And another good performance from Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell in sixth spot. And as you can notice, there's really only about 1 second separating the first six guys.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing grid, isn't it? I mean, the competition this year really has closed up remarkably.
Which is terrific.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So now let's settle back. for this one. And then, of course, the big bikes that will follow. Here's your commentators, Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Thank you, Daryl, and welcome Australia to Mexico City for round 6 of the World Championship here at the Hermanos Rodríguez circuit. It is very, very high, the circuit, some 7,000 feet. It is hot and muggy today. The smog is as thick as ever it is, and there in pole position on the right-hand side of your screen is Gerhard Berger's McLaren. On the left, Riccardo Patrese. It's a 69-lap race over this 4.42 kilometre course, and that means 305 kilometres in all for the race distance. Lap record is held by Prost, 1 minute 18.6. Pole position, Berger, 1 minute 17.2. Watch for the green, and that's it. They're away. And it's a fabulous start by Riccardo Patrese, who takes the lead into the first corner. Are they all going to get round okay? Patrese leads. It's Berger in second place. In third position, it's Senna. And now we're riding in midfield with Alboreto, Michele Alboreto in the arrows. And it gives you an idea of what this circuit is like.
Yes, very, very exciting circuit to drive on. It's got an exciting series of fast, twisty S-bends, demanding for the drivers, and then, of course, the famous Peralta corner going onto the straight. Now, the field streaming away, back with Alboreto, who is well down the grid, and you get an idea of just how crowded it is on the first lap. You saw particularly at the first corner, cars coming round him from on either side. And here's the leader, Patrese, still in the lead of the race. 2 McLarens right behind him, Berger followed by Senna. Back with Alboreto now through the long series of twisting S-bends. Alboreto just struggling to stay with the pace. A bit of a gap opened in front of him. A fairly cautious first lap by Alboreto. The field disappearing in the sight. The mirror blocking his view, or our view ahead, into the fast Peralta corner. Now this is the 180-degree flat out, 160, 170 miles an hour. Ayrton Senna goes for the lead.
Yes, I'd have been a lot happier if we'd been at the front, but we weren't. And here is Senna. Fabulous first lap then. He's carved his way through ahead of Patrese, and Berger goes through into second place. So it's the usual story. McLaren's first and second. Senna leads. Berger is in second place. Riccardo Patrese in the Williams is third. Then it's Boutsen and Nannini. Alessandro Nannini in fifth position in the Benetton Ford. I can see further back the 2 Lotus Lamborghini cars are well up. That's Derek Warwick and Martin Donnelly. But Senna is doing his usual. Clear track in front of him, extending to make a cushion.
Yes, and the McLarens will be happy that they've been able to get past Patrese so easily, or relatively easily, because the Williams Renault is at the moment the quickest car on the straights in Formula 1, and therefore very difficult to pass. The Renault engine seems to produce a lot of power, and they've certainly done a fabulous job of development over the winter, and that is a big problem for the McLarens, because when they, in a straight race, when they get behind them on the straight, they have a lot of difficulty getting past them. Ferrari, a poor start. Senna starting to stretch the lead as Boutsen goes inside Piquet.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me is that Nigel Mansell is down into 7th place. He started in 4th position. He's lost 3 places. We're riding with Berger, and Jean Alesi, the Frenchman, in the Pirelli Chaude Tyrrell with its 4 DFR engine, is up into a superb 6th position. So, lap 1, it's Senna leading, and then behind him, Gerhard Berger. Riccardo Patrese is well up. Boutsen and Piquet and Nigel Mansell, but Mansell is following Alesi, and here they come now. It's Senna leading, Berger second, and then the 2 Williams, but the majestic Ayrton Senna, and this is his 100th Grand Prix, and that's one of the Brabhams, David Brabham. That is David Brabham, who isn't having the best of luck in his first season of Grand Prix racing. The number 3 son of the great Sir Jack Brabham in the pits.
Yes, and whatever Brabham's problem is, it didn't look minor. They had all the bodywork off the car, a lot of people pouring all over it. It looks as if Brabham is in for a while, if not out of the race. Now, through the long series of S's, the 2 McLarens, with Senna heading Berger, And Berger, of course, very anxious to hold on. Very important race for this for Gerhard Berger. You see Senna's car out in front, ahead of him. It disappears a bit on the straight, and then as they come under braking, Berger's car will close up very dramatically. They'll get a much better view of Ayrton Senna. But this is an important race for the championship and for his relationship in the team for Berger. He wants to get on level terms with Senna and beat him or race him very hard. It's important for their own personal psychological battle. So Berger through the first S, now a short straight and into the left-hander. This is a possible passing point for some of the drivers on the circuit, then back into the first series of S's. A little break in the middle, and then they go back into the windy section. Bit of break up there from the onboard camera.
Yeah, and while you're watching the two McLarens at the front, let's quickly establish that tyres are going to be critical in this race. And I'll tell you why. At this height, the engines lose nearly 25% of their power because of the thin air. The thin air affects the aerodynamics. There is less grip for the tyres. And mark this because it is very important. The two McLarens started on Goodyear C tyres, and those are fairly soft. Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell are also on C tyres, and there is Prost. Remember, he started from 13th on the grid, and he's starting to make his way up through the field now, but he's got a tremendous disadvantage.
Yes, the Ferrari chassis is going pretty well in race trim, but they've had a lot of trouble this season getting their cars to qualify well. They seem to have difficulty when they go from race tyres and bolt on the qualifiers. In practice, Martin Donnelly makes a move there on his teammate Derek Warwick, and that's not altogether a surprise because Derek Warwick was complaining of a loss of power in his engine after the warm-up this morning, a little knock-off in power, and it may well be that they took the decision not to try and change the engine because there's Prost having a look down the inside in the Ferrari, taking out behind the Lotuses, but the Lamborghini engine is particularly complicated to change. Nigel Mansell, now he made a poor start really from the second row by his standards, and he's going to have to be patient in this race. But Ferrari struggle when they get the qualifiers on. Prost way down in 13th place on the grid, but undoubtedly competitive in race trim. The problem with that is when you've got two McLarens qualifying up front, by the time you fight your way through the field, if you're going to do that, they're long gone into the distance, and the gap can very often be too big to make up.
Race order then. It's Ayrton Senna leading his teammate Gerhard Berger. In third position it is Thierry Boutsen. In fourth place it is Nelson Piquet. Fifth, and there he was Riccardo Patrese, followed by Alesi, who is in sixth position. Nigel Mansell is seventh, and here is the battle. Well, there was the battle, and here it is again. There's the confirmation. Alesi and Mansell going through. Mansell in seventh position, fighting his way back. And race order then, Senna, Berger, Piquet, Boutsen, Patrese and Alesi, and that is after 5 laps. It's a 69-lap race. Nigel Mansell's got it all to do. Alesi is using Pirelli tyres. Mansell is using Goodyear.
It's nice to see that a man like Nigel Mansell does find time to go to occasions like that and just play the real father instead of the hero. Well, I think right now his mind will not be in sack racing. School days or sack racing, will be in Jean Alesi ahead of him, and Mansell will be very keen to... Yes, well, we understand you've lost pictures from Mexico City, so let's go to this commercial break. We'll be back hopefully with pictures in a few moments.
Brazilians, McLaren in front of us as we go down the long start and finish straight into turn 1, third gear at about 85 miles an hour. Nelson Piquet driving a magnificent race in the Benetton, maintaining his good form on lap 8, is in third position. In fourth position it's Thierry Boutsen in the Williams. There is Senna leading. Behind Boutsen in fifth place it's Riccardo Patrese. Sixth is Alesi, seventh is Mansell. No, and it's getting very close between Mansell and Alesi as you watch Ayrton Senna. There is the gap. So McLaren leads McLaren. There's nothing novel about that. and it looks as though the McLarens once again are going to be invincible. They've got two of the best four drivers. They've got one of the two best engines in the Honda. The McLaren chassis is absolutely magnificent, and the organisation is superlatively good. So, I hate to say it, but it looks as though Mexico is going to be yet another McLaren demonstration, because look, there is nobody even in sight behind Senna and Berger, first and second, and in the championship, it's the same situation. Senna leading Berger by 12 points, and they go into a new lap.
Yes, and this is a critical stage of the race for the personal battle for the two McLaren drivers, because Senna is just, as it were, trying to break the toe. He will be driving right on the limit now, trying to get some clear air between himself and Gerhard Berger to establish his domination and command of the race. It's most important. Gerhard Berger, likewise, conversely, will be absolutely on the limit now, desperately trying to hold Senna and not let him get away. And there we see a fastest lap early in the race for Senna, but of course on full tanks at the moment, with things not really settled down. They'll be going a lot quicker later in the race as the fuel load lightens. Remember, the overall weight of the car is increased by over 50% when they're filled up with fuel, and this makes a big difference, of course, to the car's performance. Now, Senna has actually gained a little bit as we look on this lap. Gap now over 3 seconds.
Yes, and our Mexican producer is concentrating on the people in front, which at the moment is a pity, because you haven't seen it, we have. Nigel Mansell has moved ahead of Alesi and is starting a charge. Mansell, who started fourth on the grid and slipped down to seventh, is now up to sixth position as again Senna and Berger go through into a new lap. Now look back and you'll see there is Nelson Piquet in third position. Behind him, Thierry Boutsen. Behind Boutsen is in fifth position is Patrese. We're on lap 10 now. Then it's Nigel Mansell. Now here they come towards us. There is Boutsen. There was Patrese. And here is Senna, fastest man on the course, but still not a lap record. It's early days yet.
Yes, but he is starting to edge away from Senna. Now, the interesting thing will be to see what Mansell can do. He's got a little bit of clear air ahead of him before he comes up behind the Williamses. Patrese being the first one who will come under attack from Mansell if he can close down that gap. So this will give us a pointer to just how well the Ferraris are going with their race setup.
Yeah, the Williams are going well, of course, but I think not well enough, because when Nigel, I won't say gets the red mist, because that implies that he's losing control, and he certainly isn't doing that. But when Nigel Mansell is in a charging mood, as he obviously is now, he takes a lot of catching, and he's doing the catching at the moment. He's easing up on Riccardo Patrese. There is the gap between Mansell and Patrese, 2.7 seconds. And hopefully Ferrari have overcome the reliability problem that's dogged them through a lot of 1989 and the opening stages of 1990. They've been working very hard on that automatic gearbox, and it is still Senna who's now 8 seconds ahead of Berger. Now there is Patrese, and he is in fifth position. You should see the scarlet flash of the Ferrari behind him. There's Mansell in the background, 7th place. And coming up fast now, too, behind Nigel Mansell, is Alain Prost. He doesn't show on the caption, but Prost, there he is in the background. You can see Prost. He started 13th, and he is now up to 7th place. Mansell is flying, but Prost is flying even faster. And that's Thierry Boutsen in 4th place. Well, this is great stuff here in Mexico. They're into the series of 10 bends, and that is Pirro. Emanuele Pirro, the Roman, is out of the Mexican Grand Prix.
Yes, that looks indeed terminal for Pirro. And the two Williamses really going very well indeed on the circuit, battling Ayrton Senna, who's now really stretching his lead over Gerhard Berger. Yellow flag there, that's probably for Pirro's parked car while the marshals deal with it. Senna now looking fairly smooth. early days in this long race. Very hot. Berger now dropping back quite noticeably from Ayrton Senna. Almost, because he was holding in so well at the beginning of that, it's almost as if he maybe has a problem. So we'll watch Berger to see if he's got a problem with his car.
Well, at the moment, the man who hasn't got a problem with his car is Alain Prost, because again, you haven't seen it, but Prost, like Mansell, has passed Alesi. And the world champion Frenchman, as you watch the world champion of 1988, Ayrton Senna, Prost is up to 7th position in the Ferrari, really going for it. Fastest lap so far is Ayrton Senna, 1 minute 20.2, and that is quite a lot slower than the lap record of 1:18.6, but they've still got a comparatively heavy fuel load, completing the lap. And we're watching, James and I, and you are watching very carefully the tyres. Don't forget, tyres are a problem because of the thinness of the air. You just saw Piquet coming round, still holding a good 3rd position.
Yes, and catching Senna. Now we have an incident here. That's Nakajima's Tyrrell and one of the Lolas, and that's Suzuki. So the two Japanese drivers have obviously argued over the same little bit of track by the look of it.
Well, yes, out goes Nakajima. It looks as though Suzuki's... Well, he can't go on, because if you're pushed at all these days, there is an instant penalty. So both the Japanese drivers are out to join Pirro. We're riding again with Michele Alboreto, who I fear is at the end of his racing career. He's with the Arrows this year. Yes, Michele Alboreto with the Arrows team this year. He hasn't done at all well, and I would be surprised if he's driving in 1991. There is sensational news. You look at the leader, Ayrton Senna, but now in 2nd place is Nelson Piquet. There's Pirro walking in, because Berger has gone into the pits, and now in 3rd position it is Boutsen. 4th in the Williams is Patrese. 5th is Nigel Mansell. 6th is Alain Prost, and in 7th place the 2nd Benetton Nannini. And that is a terrific development.
Yes, and Berger went into the pits where in fact all they did was a very quick tyre change, which the McLaren team turned him around very efficiently and quickly. Whether he had a problem, and Berger has rejoined in 12th place. But whether he had another problem or not, we don't know. He may well have reported a problem to the pits, gone in to have a look. They could have taken the decision that there wasn't time to attack it, just given him a new set of tyres and sent him on his way. Or it may well be that he cooked his tyres early in the race. We will watch his lap times now, and we should be able to report whether it was just a tyre problem. If he gets back up to full and proper racing speed, we can assume it was only tyres. If he still struggles, then we will know that he had other problems. So Nannini now leading Alesi.
And Nannini is in 7th place. Alesi therefore is 8th, and right behind them you'll see the 2 Lotus cars, hopefully. That's Martin Donnelly, who is in 9th position, followed by his teammate Nigel Mansell, 10th. Sorry, what am I saying? It's Derek Warwick, because there was Mansell, and here is Nelson Piquet in 3rd position. And look at this, Piquet is in 3rd position, then there is Boutsen 4th, then there is Patrese 5th, then there is Nigel Mansell in 6th position, and Prost right behind him. So it's tremendously close at the front. There's Berger, 2nd position. Gerhard Berger is now some 13 seconds behind Ayrton Senna, who is demonstrating that when the conditions are good and the car is good, he's virtually unbeatable, because Berger, having had his tyre stop, of course, is well down now. As James said earlier on, he's in 12th position, number 28. And here is Boutsen, followed by Patrese, with Nigel Mansell right up his exhaust pipe, and Prost gaining on Mansell, who is in 5th position. So it is leading Senna, 2nd Piquet, 3rd Boutsen, 4th Patrese, 5th Mansell, there he is, 6th Prost. It's developing into a great Mexican Grand Prix.
It is indeed, because the two Ferraris are now as quick, if not quicker, than anybody else on the circuit when they get clear air. Alain Prost, running up to catch Mansell, is nothing quicker than anybody else, including Senna. And it may yet be that we're going to have a motor race. The big worry for the Ferrari drivers is getting past the Williamses is going to be no easy feat, to say nothing of Piquet's Benetton ahead of that, because the Williamses are particularly quick on the straight here, and their chassis is extremely good as well. In fact, I think probably that the Williams is currently the best chassis engine combination in Formula One. Senna. Now we shoot to Gerhard Berger, who is fighting his way back, and it does look now that Berger's done a couple of laps. He looks to be going at a full racing speed, looking from his cockpit now, and it would appear that he maybe just cooked his tyres with a heavy fuel load trying to chase Senna, because he did drop off quite suddenly, and I would guess, but we'll be sure of that in a couple more laps, I would guess that Berger's only problem was that he cooked his tyres. He should be all right now. As we look at Mansell, harrying the two Williams Renaults, and Prost right behind Mansell.
Yes, great stuff, and we're on quarter distance now, and it looks as though it's getting better all the time. And my goodness, hats off to Alain Prost, up from 13th to his position now, which is 6th. He's on the leaderboard, he's in the points. Piquet's driving a terrific race, but as James has said, even if the Ferraris can get on the tail of Riccardo Patrese Williams Renault, that Renault V10 engine has got real power this year. It looks as though it's got as much power as the V12 Ferrari, and I've noticed that while Mansell closes up, or tends to, on this twisty section, as soon as they get into the straight, Riccardo Patrese doesn't exactly stride away, but he eases away. Race order then, Senna leading Piquet by 13 seconds. Then the two Williams of Boutsen and Patrese. Then the two Ferraris, 5th and 6th, and you look at Patrese being caught by the two Ferraris now.
Yes, and even with the benefit of the toe, the hole in the air made by the Williams Renault, Mansell can't pull him in at all on the straight, and that doesn't mean that they've got as much power as the Ferrari. That means they've got considerably more, noticeably more power. And what's more, when we see them in comparison with the McLaren Hondas, they are also better in a straight line than the McLaren Honda. So I would think that Renault currently has the most powerful engine. Now, Prost having a look down the inside of Mansell, but Mansell doesn't want to know. He's mounting his own challenge. It does, of course, make the Williams Renaults very difficult to pass. However, news isn't too bad for Ferrari. I understand that they've got a new development engine that should be racing pretty shortly, and certainly Alain Prost is very hopeful that that will solve their power problems. The chassis is good. They're not fully competitive in the engine department, but they expect to be within the next couple of races.
But the news isn't very good for the Ferrari designer, Monsieur Enrico Scalabroni, who is rumoured to be on his way out in order to make way for Steve Nichols, who joined Ferrari from McLaren this year to produce an even better Ferrari. I don't suppose Mansell's too worried about the one he's got. Look at the way he's harrying Riccardo Patrese, the most experienced Grand Prix driver of all, Patrese, because he is on, I think, his 197th Grand Prix. And now it is still Senna. Don't forget, he's out front by 13 seconds. Piquet is still in second position. Then still the two Williams of Boutsen and Patrese that you're just looking at. But coming up behind the Ferraris, and there he is Alessandro Nannini in 7th place, chased by Jean Alesi in 8th position. And it is still very close indeed. Senna is not showing signs of getting near these people to lap them.
Senna, Berger, Piquet, Boutsen, Patrese, Mansell e Prost, quarteto muito próximo. E depois, a alguns metros, Nannini e Alesi.
Pista muito irregular, é visível o trabalho das suspensões justamente nesta zona, com o chamado fundo plano, muitas vezes a bater no solo.
E mais uma hipótese para Nigel Mansell se aproximar de Patrese e tentar a ultrapassagem. Patrese já a defender, sair pelo meio da pista, agora a vir buscar a trajetória do lado esquerdo. Ele faz um zigue-zague à frente de Mansell, zigue-zagueia, e já não deu. A direita ao fundo da reta da meta, que é feita em sexta, e depois uma redução para segunda, para aquela direita. Senna, Piquet, Boutsen, Patrese, Mansell e Prost. Falta Berger na classificação.
Que não vimos, de facto. Não percebemos, de facto.
Algo se passou com Gerhard Berger. Algo se passou com Gerhard Berger durante aquela interrupção de imagem que a televisão mexicana foi forçada a fazer para cumprir as normas internacionais em vigor e mandar para o satélite do Atlântico.
And while you're watching and enjoying this struggle for the first 6 places, I remind you that Alessandro Nannini is not so far behind in 7th place. Alesi is 8th, Donnelly is 9th, Warwick is in 10th position. In 11th position is Stefano Modena, and in 12th position is Gerhard Berger, but he's closing. And Mansell is closing all the time on Patrese in 4th place. Mansell looking for a place to get through, but Riccardo Patrese, a very hard man to pass it, and Mansell's going up alongside him now as Boutsen passes the Ligier to lap him, and that's Nicola Larini. Was Mansell through there? It looked to me as though he got ahead of Patrese.
Yes, he did. Yes, we got a glimpse of his nose in front, and there it is. Now Prost presented with the problem. Prost having a look down the inside of Patrese, trying to jump him there, and he, I think, went discretion being the better part of valour route. Patrese is a hard man in a situation like that, and not one to mess with. Prost, of course, certainly knows that. He's been racing Patrese, well, throughout his own Grand Prix career, because Patrese was already established then. I mean, goodness me, so far back Patrese has been driving for so long that he was even driving when I was. And that seems a very long time ago. So now Mansell, you see, starting to really open a gap, but he won't be able to open a very big one before he hits the next problem. Now Nannini closing up on this group, courtesy of the Williams is basically slowing the Ferraris down. And Mansell, of course, has got to catch Boutsen and will then have the same problem again with the very quick Williams Renault. Prost not close enough this time to have a go at Patrese, but he'll be anxious not to be held up for too long.
Well, I know there are thousands of Ferrari enthusiasts in Australia, and you're certainly getting your money's worth from Mexico, because the runners to watch are Mansell and Prost, and Prost is going through to take Patrese now. No, he doesn't. Patrese slams the door in his face. He had the racing line, but Alain Prost is not going to be denied. There were people at the beginning of this season who were questioning Alain Prost's motivation. After all, he has won more Grand Prix than anybody else. He's won 40 of them. He scored more World Championship points than anyone else. But joining Ferrari has given him new enthusiasm and new motivation, and beating Senna, of course, is his greatest motivation of all. Not that he looks very likely to do that today, because he's down in 6th position, but it's something for him to go for, and he's going for Patrese now.
Yes, asked the question about Prost's motivation, they might well have done, but I think that they were people who didn't know or understand the man, because leaving McLaren in those acrimonious circumstances, he had joining a new team as well. He really had every bit of motivation, as he shows there, and certainly he's answered anybody who did question that. Well, that was Mansell just going through, and Prost alongside Patrese there. Mansell's passing a back marker. Boutsen, and if anything, Boutsen's getting away from Patrese a bit, so, and I think Patrese is slowing down. He may be in a bit of tyre problem or something like that, but certainly Prost is having to watch that gap open up ahead of him as Patrese holds him up.
And let us not forget Nelson Piquet, who is still there in second place, some 17 seconds behind race leader Ayrton Senna on lap 25, with in third position. There is the battle. Nigel Mansell coming up with a wet sail, but it's still Boutsen there in third position. Mansell is fourth. Patrese that you're looking at is fifth. Prost right behind him in sixth position. Then Nannini and Alesi, followed in 9th and 10th places by Warwick, Donnelly and Warwick. And up into 11th place now, starting to make his way through the field is Berger. And that's Boutsen being passed by Mansell. Nigel Mansell, fantastic. Nigel Mansell goes up on lap 25 into third position. So now he's just got Piquet and Senna. Can he do it?
Well, that was fine driving by Mansell to get round on the outside, but really I thought very weak driving by Boutsen, who tried to cover the inside, defended the corner, and then really didn't go into the corner with any commitment at all, because he could easily have just held his braking alongside Mansell, thereby pushing Mansell out without doing anything dangerous. And really that was a weak way to give away a place. But I'm quite sure Mansell will be very happy about it. There we see Patrese, Prost still struggling behind him, and that, the hold up by Patrese has brought Nannini up to challenge, with Alesi not far away. Alesi chasing Nannini, so we've really got a race on the go here. Prost must be beginning to feel pressure to get past the Williams as soon as he possibly can. Mansell now pulling away from Thierry Boutsen, and quite clearly the Ferraris are going very, very well in race trim. Quickest cars on the circuit when they're on their own, but with all this traffic, Senna's too, and Mansell ducks him. He died inside Patrese, and Mansell's through. Sorry, Prost. Prost goes inside Patrese, I beg your pardon. And at last, Alain Prost can resume his chase of the leaders.
What a fabulous Mexican Grand Prix this is. On the race order now on lap 26 is Ayrton Senna leading by 16 seconds. Nelson Piquet second. Mansell is catching Piquet. He's less than 2 seconds behind him in third position. Fourth is Thierry Boutsen, being caught by number 1, world champion Alain Prost, that you are looking at in the Ferrari. Down to sixth position goes Riccardo Patrese, who is being caught by Alessandro Nannini, 7th. 8th is Alesi, 9th is Donnelly, 10th is Warwick, 11th, and catching them is Gerhard Berger. And there's Griard, who is being passed by Prost now. So Olivier Griard, the Frenchman in the Osella, who's had to pre-qualify, of course, has been lapped now by the flying Alain Prost. And the fastest lap that we have so far is now Nigel Mansell has gone round in 1 minute 19.6. He's the fastest man on the circuit. We're on lap 26, and Nannini is up with Patrese.
Yes, and there's lots of trading of fastest laps at the moment as the fuel load comes down. But at the end of the day, it looks as if we've got a very competitive lappery from the Ferraris. Berger has got going again, I can report properly, so it looks as if his problem was only cooking that first set of tyres, a problem that one wouldn't expect to reappear having done some 10 or 15 laps with the heaviest part of the fuel load over with, putting on a fresh set. That should be safe. And Berger is now beginning to charge through the field from well down, from 12th place where he rejoined after his pit stop.
The trip to Mexico has been worth it for all of us. McLaren leads, Benetton in second place. In third position, a Ferrari. In fourth position, a Williams. In fifth position, a Ferrari. In sixth position, a Williams. And in seventh place and gaining, there he is, Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton. So both the Benettons are in the first 7. Both the Williams are in the first 7. Only one of the McLarens is in the first 7. And look at this, that is Boutsen and behind him is Mansell. So there is Riccardo Patrese. We're on lap 27 now. And there's Riccardo Patrese, 6th position.
Yes, Sandro Nannini was attacking the Williams heavily from behind. Patrese gets a little bit of a breather. And one of the Ligiers to defend his rear. And Nannini's through though, didn't get much of a breather. Nannini will be getting back on his tail. I get the impression that Patrese may just have a minor tyre problem, maybe struggling to grip a bit, because whereas he was running happily with Thierry Boutsen in the early part of the race, having out-qualified him, he's now losing ground to his teammate, and it may just be that we know the tyres were marginal. Again, some teams have picked different compounds. The Williams running a slightly harder setup than the Ferraris and McLarens, but that is normal. The Williams tends to be harder on tyres, and we saw Prost just disappearing out of shot. Ahead now, rejoin Gerhard Berger, who is in 10th place now and fighting his way back through the field. And a long straight, Berger getting a toe. And he's chasing a Lazy. Will he get up behind Lazy? No, sorry, it was one of the Lotuses. The study of the McLaren Honda, you can hear the flipping on the throttles as he goes through the corners, and you get a very good view of just how ferocious the feedback through the steering wheel is. That isn't Berger wobbling the wheel, that's Berger oops, and a little bit of a correction there. But that is the wheel actually trying to wander about of its own accord, a lot of that buffeting, and it requires tremendous strength in the arms to hold these cars, with tremendous front-end grip, and all that grip has to be dealt with tremendous muscular effort to turn the steering wheel against the grip.
And unless I'm very much mistaken, that is Jean Alesi in front of him. And it's a tribute to Alesi, the way he pulled away from Berger through that twisty series of bends. There's 10 of them in succession. This is the 180-degree, 165-mile-an-hour Peralta curve, and it's here that Gerhard Berger should gain on the Tyrrell Ford ahead of him, and you can see that he's doing so. Now, there is Berger. And I am very much mistaken, because there is Berger, and it's one of the Ligiers. My apologies. So that will be Larini, but Gerhard Berger at this stage of the race is now in 9th position, because as James pointed out, he got ahead of one of the Lotuses, and it was that of Martin Donnelly. And it's Senna leading by 14 seconds still from Piquet, with Mansell in 3rd position but catching the Benetton. 4th is Boutsen, 5th is Prost, 6th is Patrese, 7th is Nannini, 8th is Alesi, and 9th there is Gerhard Berger. So hopefully we will get a chance to see the man I've been talking about incorrectly, Jean Alesi, if we have any more on-car camera shots from Gerhard Berger, who is really going for it.
De imagem, e agora o realizador foi recuperá-lo. Talvez por entender que ele está também a fazer uma recuperação.
Patrese there with Nannini now looking way around, and Prost was having a look down the inside of Thierry Boutsen there as they entered the turn 1 at the end of the main straight. And Prost was past. But there we saw Prost. A successful manoeuvre there for Alain Prost. So on that 31, Prost moves up into 5th place. That's Patrese, still struggling to hold on to his position, with Nannini starting to hound him. So Alesi in the background there, and Berger is chasing Alesi. Ending fast S-bend sweeps, then the short straight and into the Peralta corner. This daunting 170-mile-an-hour banked corner, of which Mansell reported from the telemetry in his Ferrari that they were putting 4.7G through that corner. And if you want to know what 4.7G feels like, imagine lying on the floor with 3.7 Nigel Mansells lying on top of you, and that's how squashed as Nannini goes through past Riccardo Patrese. Nannini at last got the jump, got the toe on the straight, braked him into turn one, and I think Patrese is struggling, and there we see Alesi in the background just coming into shot. So Alesi will be attacking Patrese next. Alain Prost.
Yeah, and while you watch Prost, who is in fourth position, behind Boutsen there, what's interesting me is why it was that Berger went in for tyres so early, whereas Senna seems to be staying out in front with no problems at all, because the gap between Senna in the lead and Piquet in second place is still 15 seconds, with Nigel Mansell third, Prost fourth, Boutsen fifth, and Nannini up to sixth ahead of Patrese.
Yes, there is a simple explanation for that, Barry, and it is this, that the tyres are very critical and on temperature, and if you take them past the critical point, you hit a point of no return in the temperature and slip that you put into the tyre. Now, it would appear when they're marginal, what's happened is that Senna was in front of the race, was able to drive at very much the speed he wanted to, and look after his tyres, no doubt, a little bit. And Berger was fighting to keep up. We know he's got a ragged driving style anyway. He's very hard on the tyres, very hard on the car, as Prost tried to nip by there, but and in fact the Manitron moves over the Onyx and lets him go. But and of course the car at the start of a Grand Prix, at its far and away its worst, because for a tyre situation, because the more rubber there is on the tyre, the more heat they retain, and therefore the more heat that builds up. Combine that with the fact that the car is over 50% heavier than when it's going to finish the race, with the fuel enormous, some 50 gallons of fuel on board. And this, of course, means the tyres have far and away their biggest bashing right at the start of the race. And if you take them past a certain limit of temperature and abrasion, then the tyres go off and they never recover. And I think that's probably what happened to Berger, whereas the other front runners were able to survive. As we ride with Berger, who is closing down on Alesi.
Yes, lap 33. I think it really is Jean Alesi this time. It's a bit difficult to identify some of them through Berger's onboard camera, but it looks to me like the Frenchman's style and the Frenchman's car. So watch this as the Tyrrell gets ever closer, and Berger darts through. Gerhard Berger passes Jean Alesi, and that therefore has taken him up to 8th position. Berger up to 8th position.
No, still wasn't Alesi. It's very difficult, as Barry says, to identify the back view of a car through the onboard camera. But Berger, that was a back marker. Berger still chasing. And we'll try and get a gap to Alesi in just a moment. But Berger seems to be going perfectly well now. He's lapping as quickly as the front runners now, so we have to assume that all he did was cook his tyres, and the fresh set has done the trick, because he now seems to be running perfectly well.
Aren't these on-board cameras marvellous for giving you an impression, a very real impression of how a racing driver operates? Now, this is the Peralta, 180 degrees, it's slightly banked. You can go around absolutely flat out in 5th or 6th gear. And Nigel Mansell, James said earlier on, Nigel was pulling 4.7G, and funnily enough, Alain Prost came up immediately afterwards and he said, I understand I was pulling 5G, which shows you that the rivalry between the Ferrari drivers is very real. And that is Ayrton Senna. We haven't seen him for a long time, but that is the unmistakable, distinctive style of the 1988 world champion, the championship leader of 1990. And already it's beginning to look as though he's got it in his pocket. Ayrton Senna said after the Canadian Grand Prix, I think I can see that number 27, which was the number of, amongst many others, James Hunt, Alan Jones and Gilles Villeneuve, can win a World Championship. Senna said that, so he's thinking of the World Championship already, and look at this! This is Piquet in second place, and right behind him, Nigel Mansell, who's come up from 7th now to 3rd, and it looks as though he's got the grips with Piquet. He dodges out behind the Benetton and has a look, but he's still not quite close enough, and it's Senna leading, Piquet 2nd, Mansell 3rd. Prost is catching all 3 of them. In 5th position, it is Boutsen. 6th is Nannini. 7th is Patrese. 8th is Alesi. And 9th is Gerhard Berger. And I feel that we're going to see a lot of changes in this race yet. The pace is terrific. The tyres must be taking a terrific pounding too. But Mansell is the man to watch. Ferrari is the car to watch, as is the Benetton. So it's a V10 engined McLaren leading, Honda power, a V8 Ford-powered Benetton second, a V12 Ferrari in 3rd position. And the people who said that the V8s were not going to be any good for this formula are being proven wrong at the moment. And Ford have got a new engine, which is coming out at the French Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, which is reputed to give the same sort of power as the Renault engine in the Williams. Now, Mansell going for it.
Well, this current engine doesn't look far short of it because, again, you watch the Ferrari. He has a lot of trouble pulling him in, despite the toe on the straight. He's in perfect position in picking up the toe, and tremendous dummy standing there by Mansell. He's really perfected that trick. He gives it a swing in either direction, confuses the driver in front, and then suddenly the door is wide open. And that was very, very neatly done by Mansell. Piquet is responding, he's fighting back, doesn't want to take that lying down, but I think Mansell, now that he's in front, is going to open the lead.
Este tipo de manobra mostra-se por um lado, aparece do outro, em plena reta, em plena aceleração, já perto da travagem, fez isso com Nelson Piquet e chegou ao 2º lugar. Mansell é segundo, eventualmente a uns 13, 14 segundos de Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna, que continua lá na frente, mas agora tem Mansell atrás de si, é razão de sobra para tomar um pouco mais de atenção, se por acaso já estava na fase de correr, controlando o seu andamento. Mansell é piloto para ir gradualmente baixando a diferença que o separa de Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna irá naturalmente ser avisado desta mudança de posição e dosear o seu andamento em conformidade.
Quem perdeu o contacto com estes homens, pelo menos através das imagens, contacto próximo, claro, foi o atual 4º classificado, o Alan Prost.
Look at this, there's battles all down the field because you're looking at Boutsen in 5th position, who's got Nannini right behind him in 6th place. Race order on lap 38, over half distance, and Nannini passes the tail ender. Right up tight behind Boutsen, it's Senna leading by 18 seconds. Nigel Mansell now in 2nd position. Piquet down to 3rd, being caught by Prost in 4th position. This is the battle for 5th between Boutsen and Nannini, with behind Nannini, Alesi still in 7th position. Riccardo Patrese slipping down now, is in 8th place. Gerhard Berger is still 9th, and Berger, you can't see him, but we see him lap after lap, and he is really flying now. But Thierry Boutsen, I wonder if the decision of Williams to go for the slightly harder compound was the wrong one. I'm just trying to remember what the compound that Nannini and Piquet, well, they've got C's. Nannini and Piquet have both got Goodyear C compound tyres, which are softer and therefore provide a better grip than the B compound that Boutsen and Patrese have got. Well, it's another indication of how technical Formula One is.
Yes, indeed, because, of course, if the softer compound, which by nature takes more heat and is softer and therefore attracts more heat, overheats, then of course it becomes useless. And if we cast our minds back to the San Marino Grand Prix earlier this year at Imola, the Williams team again went the conservative, harder compound route, and that got them the result in the race, and that would seem to be the way to go on that day. And because if the softer compound starts to give trouble, the more durable, harder tire goes. But there also, it's not just technical, because there's a lot of guesswork, feel, and or gut feel that goes into your tire choice. With track conditions that change all the time and change in a way as to affect tires in relatively unpredictable things, it's more of an art than a science, choosing the different compounds at one's disposal for a race. And one can guess right and one can guess wrong.
And the fastest man on the circuit now is Alain Prost, who has just gone round in 1 minute 18.8. That is the first lap under 1 minute 19. There is the Frenchman. He is catching Nelson Piquet in front of him, who is in third position. We have the prospect of Ferraris being second and third before very much longer. There's the confirmation. 125.3 miles an hour. Alain Prost is on his way.
Yes, and Prost really has been the quickest man on the circuit when he's had a clear run and not been racing somebody and held up since about lap 20. But of course, coming from 13th on the grid, it gives the others such a huge start, as you have to fight your way through traffic, and Prost, we know, likes to pick people off at a reasonably conservative rate. He likes to size his opponents up, pick them off one by one, rather than charge hell for leather in the early part of a race, and this only compounds the problem of letting the others get away, because they have a massive task now to catch Ayrton Senna. I get the feeling that Senna is not nursing a lead by any manner of means. He's working very hard to maintain that lead, but at the moment he's holding it well, and
that is Gerhard Berger passing Patrese. That shows you how quickly Berger's going. He's up into 8th position now. We're on lap 40, and Gerhard Berger with those new tyres and therefore less wear, and this is getting on towards 2/3 distance. That lap 46 is 2/3 distance, but there is Berger with Patrese behind him now. Senna on lap 40 out of 69 is still leading with a comfortable cushion of 17 seconds. There's the confirmation. But look how close it is between Piquet and Prost now, with Nannini and Boutsen 5th and 6th.
Yes, and for Berger to have passed Patrese into the Peralta like that, I've got the feeling that Patrese is a bit short of grip in order to go in that slowly, because it's not really a passing point. There's not, and it means that Patrese must have had to do a real lift off the power as he went into that corner in order to control his car, which would have given Berger the chance to get under him, because in the normal way it's very nearly flat, just the tiniest hint of a lift going in, and of course that means that you can't overtake in that situation. So, back on board with Gerhard Berger again.
Yes, it's difficult to know who to watch. There's so much of interest in this race. Frankly, the man we're not watching all that much, except to check him through, is Senna, who's got such a commanding lead. But Mansell up into 2nd place. Piquet is being caught by Prost, and that is something to watch. Nannini in 5th place ahead of Boutsen, and Alesi is most definitely being caught by Berger, carving his way through the field. You've just seen him lap Paolo Barilla in the Minardi, and now Patrese's got a problem of getting past him. And Gerhard Berger, who's been a mixed bag in the McLaren team this year. He had a dreadful race at Phoenix, having started in pole position because he failed to finish, but then he was second in both Brazil and San Marino, third at Monaco, 4th in Canada, and the way he's going now, he could even finish in the points. I know it seems incredible, but it's possible.
Yes, he's had well, I suppose his season's been so far a little bit like his driving style, messy, a bit up and down. And when I say that, I don't mean that about his driving style particularly derogatively. He's a hard charger, and he does throw the car about a lot. But he is quick, and if that's the way he wants to go quick, then that's fine by the team. But the teams do say that he really uses the car. That's Riccardo Patrese coming into the pits. Now, is this just a tyre stop? I would have said so. He was going pretty quickly, and it didn't look as if there was anything mechanical wrong with the car, but he looked to be short of grip. Williams mechanics descend on the car, and certainly tyres, of course, get changed in routine, but nobody's doing any other work on it, so it's clearly a straight tyre stop.
As Patrese goes out, I'll tell you this, the fastest man on the track here in Mexico is Alain Prost. You probably saw the shot where Mansell has got Prost within sight of us as the two of them go through. This is lap 42 now. Patrese has been into the pits, got a new set of Goodyears and out again, and the race order is still Senna with that comfortable 18-second cushion ahead of Mansell, and Piquet is really being challenged now in third position by Alain Prost. In fifth position it's still Nannini as you look at Patrese up to racing speed. Sixth position Boutsen, seventh and eighth and very close are Alesi and Berger, and ninth now is Donnelly, 10th is Derek Warwick, down to 11th the man you're looking at, Riccardo Patrese.
De novo com Gerhard Berger.
Ayrton Senna, líder da corrida desde o final da primeira volta.
Ele já se desenvencilhou de Stefan Modena, já está atrás de Patrese. Se ultrapassar Patrese ficará com menos uma volta.
Continuamos a seguir aqui o piloto brasileiro. Vamos ver se a imagem se mantém até à previsível ultrapassagem. E aqui
a paragem de Piquet.
Piquet a troca de pneus também. Há, portanto, previsão de que, pelo menos, alguns dos pilotos da frente...
You'll be wondering in Australia what's happened to David Brabham, and I'm sorry to tell you that he is out of the race. He came into the pits a long time ago and has had to withdraw. But he's now the youngest man in Grand Prix racing. He's got plenty of time ahead of him, and he's certainly showing that he's a chip off the old block. And Nelson Piquet then down. And so the race order now on lap 44 is Senna with a slightly reduced lead, actually, 16 seconds ahead of Mansell. Prost in third position, so Ferrari second and third. McLaren leads. Benetton in fourth position. That is Alessandro Nannini. In fifth position, it's Boutsen. Sixth position is Piquet. And then we've got Alesi and Berger still hasn't got past the Frenchman. We're coming up to two-thirds distance in this fascinating race where the fortunes have ebbed and flowed and changed all the way through the race. And there are the two Lotuses in the lead. That one was Donnelly, 9th position. Warwick is in 10th place. Here is Berger, who is now 7th, ahead of Nelson Piquet. So Gerhard Berger is keeping up the pressure. Look at him, you're riding with Berger now.
This is Senna, got Senna's helmet. It's difficult with the two McLarens, the cockpits look the same, so we can see their helmets. And Senna lost a little bit of his lead to Mansell. And that was probably traffic. Of course, the gaps jump up and down a bit. But Prost in third place is now charging hard, trying to close down Mansell's lead on him. And Senna diving inside the back marker, who gave him the space. driving style. They're trying to keep it smooth. They've had one or two pit corners for tyres. The teams, in general, the plan for everybody was to try and go the distance on the one set of tyres where was not thought to be a potential problem for the tyres. Heat was the main worry, which doesn't, of course, necessarily wear them out any quicker. It just makes them lose grip. But and that seems to have been the problem for some people, those who have had to go in and change. Senna looking neat, smooth, comfortable. He's pressing on as hard as he can. He's keeping smooth. Still, as we thought, not able to pass the fresh-tired Williams of Riccardo Patrese, to pass him, to lap him, but that won't worry Senna at all. In fact, it'll give him something nice to follow, to aim at when you're tired. It sometimes helps to have somebody to chase, as we watch from Senna's cockpit. We'll see him close up on Patrese under braking.
Now, I do not want to appear to be alarmist, and I've said this sort of thing before and been proved to be wrong, but Senna is either, as he has before, driving a very, very canny race and not going any faster than he has to, or something might be amiss, because I have noticed that Senna's lead has come down by 7 seconds. Not immediately, but slowly. He led at one point by 20 seconds. We're 2/3 into the race now, and his lead is down to just a whisker over 13 seconds. And Nigel Mansell and Prost are certainly gaining on the McLaren. So Mansell second, Prost third, Nannini is fourth, Boutsen is in fifth position, Alesi is sixth, and Berger is seventh and gaining.
Yes, I think most of that loss of the gap was to do with traffic. Remember, the man in the lead tends to alert the other people who don't necessarily see him coming as he comes up to lap them, but he alerts the people that they're now being lapped, and they tend to look out better for the people in second, third and fourth places coming up behind, because the back markers are then forewarned and forearmed. Senna being politely allowed through by Griard. And he'll want all the help he can get, because also, but I do feel that Senna is right on the limit now, and only able to hold the gap with the Ferraris. In fact, they're edging closer even when they get clear laps. So it would look as if Senna is beginning to struggle a little bit for grip, but having said that, the Ferraris have performed absolutely fabulously in race trim for their drivers. I think the drivers are pretty unhappy with certainly Prost with the qualifying performance. We watch Senna now. Let's look at his car. Let's have a look at the tyres to see if we can see any signs of overuse and abuse. But all 4 tyres look all right to me there, and he's still able to lap quickly enough to keep that gap when he's got a clear road.
Right, James, you keep watching the tyres. You're the expert. Here's the news. Alain Prost, there he is. He's the fastest man on the circuit. He's within an ace of the lap record. He's just gone round in 1 minute 18.582. That's the fastest lap that we have had. Prost is really going for it, and he's starting to catch Nigel Mansell, and therefore starting to catch Senna. There we are, 118.582, 202.5 kilometres average around the circuit. And there's Mansell. There is Prost. That's the battle for second that's developing now. Alain Prost has got Nigel Mansell in his sights.
Yes, and the time before when they came past us, the gap was 4.7 seconds, and it certainly isn't that now. So, and what's more, there seems to be no tyre problem for Prost and Mansell, because with Prost's time still coming down as the field load lightens, that can only be if everything else on the chassis is working to perfection. So the chase is on for Alain Prost. But he'll be looking for Senna as well. And he's really catching Mansell fast. Mansell's got a back marker in front of him, which certainly doesn't help the situation. One of the Ligiers.
Now, there's no team orders in the Ferrari team. Somebody somebody went up to Nigel here in Mexico and said, do you remember you said that you could not imagine anybody better to have in the team with you than Alain Prost? And Nigel said, yes, but that was before I knew he was coming. Well, he's now arrived in the team with Nigel Mansell, and Prost is catching him. Fabulous up at the front. Ayrton Senna's lead has come down again to only 11 seconds now, just over 11 seconds, down from 20 seconds. Mansell, that you're looking at, is catching him in second place. Prost, that you're looking at, is catching Mansell. It's still Nannini fourth, Boutsen fifth. Up into sixth place has come Berger.
Yes, and it's now clear that Senna certainly can't do anything to pull away from the Ferraris, and it appears that they're catching him slowly when both have fair laps. So can Senna hold on? 11.5 seconds he's got over Mansell at the moment, with some 13 laps to go. And that's Griard, well known already in his short Formula One career for getting in the way and holding people up, and that's allowed Prost to come right onto Mansell's tail, and Mansell will not be at all pleased with Olivier Griard for that performance. He's getting a serious reputation for it, more for blocking than for any ability to drive on his own. He should concentrate on trying to improve his driving and his manners.
Yes, Olivier Griard was trained, of course, by René Arnoux in the Ligier team. Arnoux retired, but his reputation lives on with Griard. And look at this! Prost right with Nigel Mansell. Well, 15 times a winner Mansell, 40 times a winner Prost, and Senna still leads.
Campeão em exercício e, de qualquer modo, não só por isso, também porque Senna já lá vai na classificação do Mundial, o Prost precisa recuperar pontos. Embora o segundo lugar seja sempre o segundo lugar com o Senna a ganhar. Se o Senna ganhar são 9 pontos, o Prost ficará com 6, mas estando ele na segunda posição, se acontecer alguma coisa a Ayrton Senna, ele herda o primeiro lugar e, portanto, recebe 9 pontos de bandeja sem que o Ayrton Senna pontuasse. Veremos o que nos reserva este final do Grande Prémio do México, que tem sido uma prova bem curiosa desde o início.
Sem dúvida. A diferença há instantes entre Senna e Mansell era, recordo-lhe, de 12,2 segundos. A diferença entre Mansell e Prost era de 2,8 segundos, já é menor.
E agora é um pouco maior. É a luta entre o piloto voluntarioso, Nigel Mansell, e o piloto manhoso, Alain Prost. A luta entre Mansell e Prost.
À frente dos dois pilotos da Ferrari está o Stefan Modena, no Brabham.
Poderá atrasar um pouco o Mansell agora. Poderá atrasar um pouco.
10.6, diminui.
Já foi de 14 para 13, para 12, para 11, já vai em 10.6. 10.6 a diferença de Mansell para Senna. Senna deverá naturalmente estar a ser informado desta evolução da proximidade dos Ferraris, e cá está o Modena
não facilitou nada.
A atrasar a recuperação dos Ferraris e a permitir que Alain Prost se aproxime de novo de Nigel Mansell. Isto poderá ajudar o Ayrton Senna lá na frente. Prende um pouco aqui e enerva um pouco os pilotos da Ferrari e deixa-lhe algum tempo nesta recuperação. Poderá eventualmente até a diferença de Mansell para Senna, que agora já passou o Modena, baixar um pouco, baixar no sentido de aumentar, claro.
Vamos ver se Prost se consegue libertar do Brabham. Já está.
Talvez tenha realmente a pressão dos Ferraris sobre o Ayrton Senna tenha sido alterada com aquele ligeiro atraso.
Lap 54, well over three-quarter distance now. Senna's lead is down to under 10 seconds. Both the Ferraris are catching him. They are racing each other, and there is tremendous rivalry, keen rivalry and friendly rivalry, unlike last year between Senna and Prost, between Prost and Mansell in the Ferrari team. but both are equally anxious and determined to win. There's a couple of back markers that they're coming up to. That could delay either or both of them, and therefore change the positions. So Senna on lap 54 leads by 9.5 seconds. This is the battle for second. Mansell Ferrari, Prost Ferrari. Nannini is still in fourth place. Boutsen is fifth, but about to be taken, I think, I'll let you know, by Gerhard Berger, who's right with the Williams. And it's the Arrows that is being caught, and Gregor Wojtek.
What was significant to me was that they actually pulled a second off Ayrton Senna on that lap when Mansell was being held up. Now, I would think that Senna was being held up as well, but if he had a 100% healthy car, and Prost is getting alongside, he's tucked in behind Mansell again, and Prost going for the inside. And Alain Prost takes his teammate. That was a bit hard on Mansell. He was a little bit tied in the traffic. So, swap places the two Ferraris, very evenly matched, and still 9.5 seconds behind Ayrton Senna.
Yes, actually, I just took a check there. It was down to under 9 seconds now, and you can see that Prost has got air, and plenty of it, between himself and Mansell. Race order on lap 55 in this 69-lap race, with Prost Ferrari and Mansell Ferrari catching Senna, and Berger is gaining on all of them. Berger is the fastest man on the course. He is in fifth position now, because it is Senna leading. Now under 9 seconds ahead of Prost in second place. There he is, with the distinctive yellow flashes on the front and rear wings of his Ferrari. Mansell in third position. Nannini in the Benetton is fourth. Boutsen is fifth, but I don't think it's going to be there very much longer, the way Gerhard Berger is going. Out of the Peralta, over the start and finish, over the grid and the start and finish line. Mansell, and down comes the gap again. 7 seconds. We are indeed, I think, going to be... I wonder if Senna has got a tyre problem, because we know Berger went in early, and Senna is still out there on his original tyres.
Yes, I would think his tyres are now getting tired, excuse the pun, towards the end of the race. Because those first dozen or so laps extra that his tyres have done on the full fuel load. And this is Berger now slicing through the back markers, chasing. Berger, remember, in fifth place. Chasing Nannini. Now, here we see the two Ferraris. That's Mansell chasing Alain Prost. Alain Prost is just edged away a little bit from Mansell, and really that seems to be very much the small difference that exists between the two drivers, or has done throughout this race, that when they've both been on their own and clear, Prost has been able to lap just marginally faster than Mansell. And there is Senna, and now they have him in sight. So Prost has Ayrton Senna in sight, albeit only on the long straight for the moment, but catching him, catching. And the gap now only 5 seconds. Now let's just look at Senna and see if we can see. The tyres all look clean. There doesn't appear to be any graining on the tread, which you can see with the naked eye. But if they're very warm, he will be struggling for grip. Just looking, the tyres look okay to me at the moment.
Lap record, new lap record. Alain Prost has gone round in 1 minute 17.9. That is 7/10 of a second faster than his own McLaren Turbo 1988 lap record, and he is fairly reeling in his rival, his real rival, Ayrton Senna, the man. There's no love lost between Prost and Senna after 1989 and the bitter feud that they had in the McLaren team. And Prost now knows that the only man ahead of him is Senna, and that he could win, because it's now down to under 4 seconds, well under 4 seconds, and Berger is flying through the field.
Yes, you have to be careful, Prost, that his motivation doesn't fall over. The sight of that red rag to the Prost bull ahead of him will certainly get the motivation and the adrenaline up to maximum levels. So, Senna in the lead, coming down visually all the time. They can now see Senna around most of the circuit, except when he gets into the sweeps. Senna holding on. And this, if he is, as we think can only be the problem, the car looks a little bit wandery then. And if he is in tire trouble, he has to strike a very difficult balance between going as quickly as he can to defend that lead whilst not sliding the car about too much and trying to nurse the tyres and not put... Oh, yes. And there was a bit of a twitch there from Senna's car. And the Ferraris are closing in fast.
Yes, a titanic scrap in the closing stages. Lap 59 in this 69-lap race. And Ayrton Senna looks to me as though he's going to lose the lead. The Ferraris of Prost and Mansell are visibly gaining on Senna now. If he's got a tyre problem...
He's got a puncture. The right rear looks much smaller than the left rear to me. And it looks as if Senna... Now, that looks as if it's gone down quite quickly. I was looking to see if he'd got a problem like that before, but I saw nothing, the tyres. But just then, the right rear looked to be a bit soft and a bit low on profile. We'll see again if the car starts bottoming a lot, and that may have been consistent with those twitches we saw if he's had a slow puncture.
Yeah, Senna looks slower. He seemed to give a sad shake of his head. It's probably the vibration of the car, but it certainly fitted the mood that he must be in, because he can see the Ferraris now in his mirrors, and there is Prost, there is Mansell. First, second, third, there's the confirmation. Prost now, new lap record, 1 minute 17.9, and it looks as though Prost is on his way to his 41st Grand Prix victory. He's up to Senna, he's through, Senna holds on. If that tire's going down, then Senna is holding it in a masterful way.
Piloto campeão do mundo da Ferrari.
E o Prost estabelece o novo recorde aqui no circuito Hermanos Rodríguez. Com 17.9, ele tinha 18.6.
And so now, coming towards the end of the race, you can see there is Ayrton Senna, and right behind him is Alain Prost.
Jumping live to the race now, and Prost has caught Senna. He's been catching himself. This Senna appears to be in some sort of tyre trouble and struggling a bit, but can Prost pass him?
Just look at this. This is a 69-lap race. This is lap 60. Ayrton Senna leads. Right behind him is the reigning world champion, Alain Prost, who has already won for Ferrari. And Nigel Mansell is in third position. In fourth place, it is Nannini. Up to fifth has come Berger after a sterling drive. Sixth is Boutsen. Seventh is Alesi. And down to eighth position has gone Piquet. But what a fight for victory. Prost is really pushing Senna.
Yes, it's been a fantastic day for Ferrari. They struggled in qualifying, particularly Prost. 13th on the grid he started. He was patient as usual. Prost now pressing, but he'll have to let Senna go through the quick one first. You can't pass into that. Now, let's have a look at the straight line speed of the Ferrari.
Really savouring this moment. I am going to argue, my son, and it's going to be soon. And Mansell is right with Prost in third position, and Berger is up into fourth place. It's not inconceivable that we're going to see Berger soon. Now, is this where we're going to see the lead change? It is! It is! Alain Prost goes into the lead. There's Senna's camera. And Nigel Mansell is challenging for second place. And look at the way Prost Ferrari, even on the corner, strides away from the McLaren. Lap 61, 69-lap race. Prost leads, Senna down to second. This is the first time this season, apart from Phoenix at the beginning when Alesi did it, that Senna has been passed fair and square with no argument about the car or driver, and Prost, his rival, is the man who has done it, and Ferrari leads in Mexico. Is Ferrari soon to be second in Mexico?
Well, Prost would certainly want that, because Senna's the man he's gunning for in the championship, and he would want Mansell to come through and take second place there by removing 2 further points from Ayrton Senna's score for the season. Now, I think Mansell will probably try and sit behind Senna onto the straight. Yes, he's going to stay behind. He'll get the toe on the straight, and it shouldn't be any difficulty to pass him. He's tucked into a perfect position to pick up the hole in the air. Just to be able to dip out about 2/3 of the way down the straight. Still, that looks very simple. No fight back from Senna there. He knows he's in trouble. He knows no point in starting against thunder. The inevitable. So, Ferrari 1 and 2. And Senna definitely struggling.
Yes, I don't know if you saw it, but he actually waved Mansell by. His right hand came off the steering wheel, and he waved to Mansell to pass on the right. Not that Nigel needed any invitation to do so. Now, Nigel has been caught and passed by Prost. Can he do a last-minute charge and try to catch his teammate? And he needs to, because Berger is gaining.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, knowing the man that he is, that Mansell's going to try, but at the same time, having seen throughout the race that Prost could lap marginally quicker, although he'll try, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. That's one of the Minardis. And I think that Prost should catch him on the straight, which he'll be pleased about. He will not want to be held up by the Minardi when they get to the end of the straight through those S-bends. And Prost going through, only just, so he just, with the toe, got close enough to be able to get through, and he'll be pleased about that. Gives him a little bit of a cushion, a little buffer. Remember, Mansell has still got to find his way round the Minardi. And Senna has really dropped back there. Is Senna in the background? Ayrton Senna obviously in trouble now. Difficult to tell what it is, because his tyres don't look that bad, and I'm not sure that that was a slow puncture on the left rear. It seemed to be down a little bit.
Well, Prost now has got the Mexican Grand Prix by the throat, and he's not going to let go. On his way to victory 41. This man who's got more World Championship points than anybody else, who has scored more World Championship points in a season than anybody else. But Berger is now, I can tell you, almost within sight of Ayrton Senna. Senna is on touring by his standards, still going very quick indeed. But look at the gap now between Prost and Mansell.
Yeah, so Mansell was caught in traffic there, but he seems to have dealt with it. But Prost has got the comfortable cushion, really, that he requires at this stage. But I'm sure Mansell will be giving it everything he's got to try and stay with his teammate. And Mansell's spun. Mansell's made a mistake. What has he done? Now, can he get going again? Well, that's fantastic that his reverse gear works, because Ferrari, with their 7-speed automatic gearbox, has got the only functional reverse gear that I remember ever seeing working in a Formula 1 car, or certainly at this stage of the race. And funny enough, that helped Mansell last year, that he had the functional reverse, albeit in an odd way in the pits when he shouldn't have reversed. That cost him then, but this time it was a positive help.
And look at that! That's a McLaren. Now, is it Berger or is it Senna? Ayrton Senna. James was right. That was tyre trouble, and you can see the battered remains of his tyre flailing away on the wheel rim. And Senna, typically, is not going to give in. This reminds me of Gilles Villeneuve in the Ferrari. Where was it? In Holland years ago, except that it was a left rear with him, and it was car number 27. And Senna is trying to come in for a new wheel and tyre.
Yes, he's got a long way to go. They'll do a lot of damage, that flailing tyre. You could see him watching it very carefully in the mirror then, and looking to see just what the damage was. But I think now, with this competitive race, I mean, the only thing that will, the reason for Senna to try and get round to the pits is that he can get a fresh tyre and try and still score a point. But going at that speed for that lap he went, there's no way he's going to be able to do that. As Mansell goes through. Mansell lost a lot of time with that spin, and Berger isn't so far behind him. Prost with a comfortable lead, and is Mansell a bit slippery on the tyres? Certainly going off the road might have helped. You lose grip on the tyres when they pick up dirt because they're hot, and then that dirt, that was passing Senna there. Prost going through. Senna still trying to limp back to the pits.
Because third is Senna's teammate Gerhard Berger, fourth is Nannini, fifth is Boutsen, sixth is Alesi. John Alesi in the Tyrrell V8 is in sixth position and in the points yet again. Another brilliant drive. Prost, Mansell, Berger in third position, Nannini is fourth, Boutsen is in fifth position, Alesi is in sixth place. Still ahead of Piquet, who you remember came in for tyres, 7th. Donnelly is in 8th position. Patrese is 9th. And Warwick is 11th. And the leader, Alain Prost, has lapped everybody up to the 10th position man, Derek Warwick. My apologies. Well, there is the master, 3 times world champion, Alain Prost, who lives in Switzerland now for tax reasons. And he is up to Derek Warwick ahead of him. In 10th position, that's Warwick in the Lotus Lamborghini, who scored his first point of the season in Canada by finishing in 6th place. Senna into the pits. It hardly seems worth his while to change the tyre and wheel because he's totally out of the points now, even if you adopt the attitude of the race isn't finished until you see the checkered flag. So, brakes on, that's to stop the rear wheels turning so that the mechanics can change them. But it's all over. Ayrton Senna gets out of his car. No points in the Mexican Grand Prix. And that is going to mean that if Alain Prost stays where he is, he's going to move up. And he's going to be, I think, equal, if Berger stays where he is, in 2nd place. Well, I mustn't count chickens before they're hatched. Because there is Alain Prost. And Mansell is still charging. Just 3 laps to go, so we're on lap 67 now. And Berger is closing right up on Nigel Mansell, I can tell you that. You're looking at Prost. Now look back, and there it is. There is Berger, and he locks up. He's trying to take Mansell. He pushes him out of the way. Berger is up to 2nd. And remember at San Marino, Mansell was very angry with Berger.
Well, I think that you can't be angry with Berger there. Berger took him by surprise. I don't think Mansell was ready, and he dived in with the brakes a bit locked, but Mansell definitely moved into Berger then and didn't give him the space. They had a little contact and pushed Mansell wide onto the slippery stuff, but Mansell, I think, was taken very much by surprise, and you see, because he got his tyres dirty, how the car slid about a bit then. Now, that little bit of contact will certainly have woken Nigel up, but if he's struggling for grip, remember that Berger will have slightly fresher tyres on. It's going to be a real struggle for Mansell to respond. But I think if anything, Mansell will be very pumped up because he must be very angry with himself. First of all, for not seeing Berger about to jump him, and then for the contact that he made, and he certainly tucked right back in, and he doesn't intend to take it lying down. So Mansell tucked right up behind Berger again.
And Prost now is into his last lap, seemingly on his way to victory in Mexico. And Mansell going for Berger as they go into turn 1, but Gerhard holds him off. Now they've got that series of swinging lefts and rights, 10 bends that make this course unique. And Mansell is through. No, yes, no, this is incredible.
Well, Berger always had the inside line for the next corner. But he certainly was struggling for grip on the exit of the right hand and coming onto that short straight, or at least he was messy and making mistakes. That allowed Mansell alongside. So wheel-to-wheel stuff from these two. Well, there is nowhere to overtake through the S-bend section, really. The straights are too short. And Mansell is going to have to try and position himself the right distance behind Berger going onto the end of the lap as they go into the Peralta corner, and then try and slingshot him onto the straight. Berger blocking his way in and going in low, and Mansell right round the outside of him. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Berger went low to try and defend the inside line to the corner, and Mansell, who you see now ahead, just simply kept his foot in it and drove straight round above Gerhard Berger. So Mansell regains that 2nd place, and tremendous stuff by Mansell will also, of course, have materially helped Alain Prost, because not only is Senna ahead of him in the championship, and he wants Mansell to push the others down the order as much as possible, but so is Berger, and that takes 2 points away from Gerhard Berger, which can only help Alain Prost and, of course, Nigel Mansell.
Well, right down to the wire, the excitement goes in Mexico, and it is almost the end of the race, because this is the last lap, and this is the race leader. Lap 69, on his way to his 41st Grand Prix victory, Alain Prost, but it could still be either Berger or Mansell, and there is Prost crossing the line to win in Mexico, but who's going to be second?
Yes, and a fabulous drive through the field by Alain Prost from the lowly 13th on the grid, and here he's on board with Berger. That's Mansell in front of him. Berger chasing him into the Peralta on the very last lap, and a back marker luckily moves there, or I'm sure that's how Mansell will see it, because he just wouldn't have wanted to be held. And Mansell survives across the line in second place, Berger third. Fabulous race by Alain Prost, just what we come to expect of him. A thinking man's race, didn't rush it, picked the cars off one by one for a superbly controlled 41st Grand Prix win, and tremendous charging stuff by Mansell behind him.
Victory in Mexico for Alain Prost, Ferrari. Second, Nigel Mansell, Ferrari. Third, Gerhard Berger, McLaren. Fourth, Alessandro Nannini, Benetton. Fifth, Thierry Boutsen, Williams. Sixth, Nelson Piquet, Benetton. And that means to say that Ayrton Senna's lead in the World Championship has come down to 8 points from 12, and Gerhard Berger and Prost are now tying for second place. Fourth equal, Alesi, Piquet and Mansell, with Thierry Boutsen in seventh place. And McLaren, of course, have got an enormous lead still in the Constructors' Championship. Well, that was a Grand Prix that we won't forget in a hurry, and I've got a feeling it could have been a turning point in the 1990 season. Victory in Mexico to Alain Prost, Ferrari. Ferrari second, Nigel Mansell. McLaren third, Gerhard Berger. Benetton fourth, Alessandro Nannini. Williams Renault fifth, Thierry Boutsen. In sixth place, Nelson Piquet, completing the point scorers. In seventh place was Jean Alesi. In eighth position is Martin Donnelly, and that's an excellent finish for him. In ninth position, Riccardo Patrese, and in 10th place and lapped, Derek Warwick. So both the Lotuses have finished. But as I said earlier on, Mexico has been a turning point, I'm sure. There's Steve Nichols in the grey hair, and incidentally there are rumours here that Enrico Scalabroni, the Ferrari designer, is going to have to leave to make way for Steve Nichols to design the 1991 Ferrari. Anyway, wonderful race for Ferrari, first and second, and there is Alain Prost touring into the pits. Not a bad race for Williams, but not nearly good enough. Not nearly as good a race as McLaren would have liked. But Mexico has shown us that the McLarens can be beaten, that Senna can be beaten. And so now, with still a good number of Grand Prix left, we're not yet even up to the halfway point in the season. The next Grand Prix is at the Paul Ricard circuit in France, and of course Grand Prix is going to be there, and of course we trust that you are going to be there to watch the Grand Prix in France with us.
Cesare Fiori on marathon. It's been so exciting, John, hasn't it? Well, it's been a great race, but I'm sure even Mauro Fugeri will feel very happy for Ferrari. How long ago was it that Fugeri was the team manager there? It must have been 15 years. The Grand Prix is affectionately known in motor racing terms, Alain Prost. Well, you know, hardly a beat of sweat, and that's the Grand Prix I think will be as sweet as any he's ever experienced. Superb race indeed. Nigel Mansell in second place as teammate. And let's just do the points, because we didn't give them to you before. Senna 31 points. Now tying on second place, it's Berger and Prost, both with 23. Mansell up to fourth place in the championship with 13. Piquet also has 30. And Thierry Boutsen, he's sixth with 11. So Senna still on those 31 points and still has a reasonable buffer over Berger and Prost. Well, There you are, Prost taking the water, Gerhard Berger, very hard race from him. Talking to his mechanics, needs more water, John. Yes, both Mansell and Berger look very, very hot indeed. Okay, well, what's coming up next? In 2 weeks' time, we go down to Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix. That, of course, will be live flag-to-flag coverage of the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard. Looking forward to that race. This one was a cracker. Hope that one be. Their confirmation of the points. Back to mistake up there. Well, there's shot of the pits. Well, it was a super race. We really enjoyed that. Mexico City coming up trumps. From myself, Andrew Marriott, and John Watson, it's goodbye. Join us for the French Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Bye now.
Nós aguardamos que os pilotos cheguem ao pódio para nos despedirmos deste especial desporto totalmente dedicado ao Grande Prémio do México. Mansell muito aplaudido, naturalmente que Prost também. Prost no lugar mais alto do pódio. Do seu lado direito, o seu companheiro de equipa, Nigel Mansell. Do outro lado, Gerhard Berger. A satisfação para os dois pilotos da Ferrari e uma certa frustração para a equipa McLaren, que desta vez não conseguiu que Ayrton Senna alcançasse mais uma vitória que esteve ao seu alcance, dado que o piloto comandou durante 51 voltas, aliás 59 voltas, este Grande Prémio do México. Primeiro lugar que alcançou logo após a primeira volta e depois de um primeiro domínio de Patrese e de Berger. E pronto, chegamos ao final desta transmissão em diferido que efetuamos a partir dos estúdios em Lisboa da RTP. Especial Desporto chega assim ao fim. Amanhã voltaremos aqui no canal 2 da RTP com mais uma transmissão do Campeonato do Mundo de Futebol a partir de Itália. Para si, senhor espectador, em meu nome e do Pedro Mariano, agradeço a atenção que nos dispensou. Voltaremos numa prossima oportunidade. Muito boa noite.
Grazie Daniele. Ezio, hai qualcos'altro da aggiungere? Sono qui sotto il podio, ovviamente inavvicinabili i tre perché verranno portati adesso a fare le varie interviste di rischio, soprattutto prima di tutto con la televisione messicana, poi con gli altri che sono in lista, quelli che in effetti sono ancora in linea diretta, però noi non ce la faremo perché evidentemente prima che finiscono i messicani, la BBC e la Foca passerà almeno un quarto d'ora, 20 minuti. Stanno fattando in questo momento lo champagne di rito, Mansell non riesce a stappare la bottiglia, adesso ce l'ha fatta. Veramente il leone britannico si è visto quest'oggi, veramente eccezionale. Sfogano la tensione tutti e tre. Sì, mi fa piacere rivedere che non è rimasto astio tra Berger e Mansell dopo questo. Adesso vediamo, magari si tira la bottiglia vuota in testa, ma non si... Ecco, tutti gli applauditi, gli applausi. Sì, c'è un pubblico qui sotto, guardate, non pensavamo. C'è una bandiera stranissima, questa una bandiera enorme, un lenzuolo Ferrari, che non si era vista prima, è tutta piegata, nuova, si vede che la tenevano ben riposta. Mansell sta cercando di raggiungere la postazione per fare le interviste, Prost ha alcune indicazioni, Mansell ha già buttato il suo berrettino, Prost si volta, saluta la folla risponde con un applauso, i meccanici Ferrari qualche lacrimuccia spunta, sono tutti piuttosto soddisfatti, contenti, si prevede gran festa questa sera, noi adesso approfitteremo per andare a raccogliere le interviste e poi inviarle via satellite per i telegiornali da parte delle rubriche sportive di domani, ovviamente dato il fuso orario, 8 ore di differenza. Ecco, passare di qui è abbastanza difficile, il nuovo Fiorio è inevitabile, ha la coppa in mano, non lo potete vedere, però vi dico che è bellissima, almeno mi sembra bella, Cesare, ma le coppe quando si vince sono sempre belle e comunque primi e secondi, adesso io spero di poter lavorare con serenità e tranquillità perché la squadra è convinta, la squadra è tranquilla, motivata e tutti stanno tirando nella stessa direzione abbiamo due grandissimi piloti, speriamo di far così anche in Francia. Quindi questo Mansell veramente è riuscito ad aggrapparsi con le unghie, con i denti per conquistare questo secondo posto. Beh, senz'altro, perché a 2 giri dalla fine era un po' uscito di strada, è andata bene che non ha perso più di tanto e ha saputo reagire da grande campione. Comunque all'inizio della gara noi eravamo partiti con gomme tenere e sapevamo che arrivavamo in fondo, ma non potevamo attaccare subito. Questo è il motivo per cui all'inizio eravamo un po' indietro e questo è anche il motivo per cui loro, che sono partiti molto forte, forse hanno avuto un po' più di problemi. L'ultima domanda, scusa, ma tutti gli sportivi italiani diranno: Germiani, ma sbrigati, fai la domanda vera, non ci cischiare. Questa Ferrari c'è o non c'è? Ma io avevo detto che noi avremmo potuto vincere anche Monte Carlo e anche Imola, però quando si arriva dietro nessuno ti crede, ma noi sapevamo che il nostro potenziale era quello e qui oggi l'abbiamo dimostrato. Grazie, ci vediamo dopo. Grazie Ezio, grazie a Daniele Audetto, grazie ai telespettatori che ci hanno seguito fino adesso, e l'appuntamento con questa grande Ferrari è per l'8 luglio, Gran Premio di Francia. Ricomincia il circuito europeo di questo avvincente campionato del mondo di Formula 1. Mario Poltronieri vi saluta e vi ringrazio per averci seguito.
At the right time, just as the pundits were predicting another season of McLaren dominance. Second was Mansell, making it a Ferrari 1-2. Afterwards, Prost was tired but happy.
After this morning warm-up, I expected to do a good race because I felt that the car was quite good, but I could not expect to win the race, and it was really fantastic for me.
The podium celebrations were as vigorous as we've seen all year. For Berger and Mansell, a safer fight than we'd witnessed out on the track.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think we were side by side, and I'd made my mind up that I was just going to go in there flat, and that's exactly what I did, and fortunately Gerhard lifted.
I had to lift off because it was too dangerous if we would go both flat out in the corner. And then was again close in the last lap because there was another car slow in front of Nigel. And I saw, okay, now I will try again. But the car moved a little bit inside and I wasn't sure he saw me or not, so it was too dangerous to stay flat out. So I lifted a little bit too and it was not enough.